So we have here the 2026 BMW iX M70. So for this year, this is the refreshed iX, and there's been a number of changes. Some of it's on the exterior design, a couple small changes on the interior design, and then there's also some hardware changes, and we're gonna go over all of that now and kind of talk about what's different with the car. And believe it or not, I know this car has gotten a lot of hate for the way that it's looked in the past, but I think the problem is it gets overlooked for actually how good of an EV it is. Let's go ahead, we'll go and talk into more detail about this, what's new, and I'll talk about what it's been like to live with for the past week. The pre-refresh BMW iX got a lot of hate for the front, mainly because of this grille. Now, again, it's an EV, it doesn't need a grille at all. It's a very odd choice that one, they would put a grille on it, and two, that they would put something so large. They have cleaned up the front a little bit. The grille is largely the same, but now for the M70, they basically have these horizontal stripes, making it look a little bit more like a traditional grille. Also new is they have this grille surround that's actually illuminated at night. One of the other changes, and it's also one of the hardware changes, these headlights, they're new for 2026, and they're actually more efficient. So actually part of the reason that you're gonna get additional range on all of the new 2026 iXs and the model lineup is actually because of these headlights. But one of, I think, the most important changes on the front for the iX is kind of this lower surround here, as well as these side skirts. The pre-refresh, it was very busy. There were a lot of lines. It was kind of an odd shape. I think what they've done is they've kind of made it much more symmetrical, much more simple. And I think that's really made a big difference. There are new wheel options for 2026, ranging from 21-inch wheels up to 23. These are the 23-inch wheels. BMW is claiming about 285 miles of range on the 23-inch wheels, whereas if you go down to the 21, you're actually gonna be getting closer to 302 according to the estimated EPA cycle. And then when you come back to the rear, again, for the most part, there isn't much change to the exterior. There are some small changes to the taillights that you'll notice at night with some of the animations that they do, and that's pretty much it. Otherwise, the exterior is the same. It's really just the cleaned up front fascia. But there was a couple small changes on the interior, and we'll go in and take a look at that now. Overall, this is probably one of the best interiors in BMW's lineup. One of the big changes for 2024, and obviously still now here new, is iDrive 8.5. Again, your 14.5 central display, as well as your 12.3-inch instrument cluster. Now the steering wheel is one of the changes. Before, the iX was known for having kind of a squircle steering wheel that some people didn't like. Now part of the M Sport package that you can get is this round steering wheel. It's just kind of better this way. I don't mind a flat bottom steering wheel, but some of the squircle steering wheels are just a little bit weird to deal with. Just having a round steering wheel with this nice little red pinstripe is great. I will say I think this is one of my favorite steering wheels that BMW offers. Again, some, they have piano black plastic here. This, it's nice. It's kind of actually a matte finish on the steering wheel, so it doesn't attract too much fingerprints or anything like that. And again, it's hard physical buttons. It's not haptic. That's awesome. I really wish BMW would just kind of keep this design. I think when you either add piano black plastic or haptic touchback, it just makes it just very frustrating to use because one, haptic feedback, it's just annoying. I don't know why designers choose to use it. These physical buttons, I get that physical feedback every single time that I know that I hit it. And then these seats are the other change. Horatio talked about it. The actual seat bolster itself is now extended about an inch compared to the old one. And then also this little recess here is smaller and a little bit more recessed back in because I guess people were having issues kind of hitting the old one. So, but overall, in terms of the seat design, the additional bolsters that are new for this year, as well as the additional length, make this one of the most comfortable seats that I've ever been in. Again, they're heated, cooled, 3 different settings for both. And on top of that, they are massaging, which makes them incredibly comfortable. I do love the electrochromatic roof. I will say it isn't the most clear when it's kind of in the clear setting. And even when it's frosted, it's still letting in a decent amount of light. Now, it's not perfect. I do have a couple complaints. Now, like I've said with every other BMW iDrive 8, 8.5, 9, even 10, to me, it's just silly that we've gotten rid of physical buttons for the HVAC. Again, if I want to go ahead and change some of the HVAC controls, I have to go through and I actually have to make changes here. Sometimes I have to go through to another sub menu. If I want to turn it off, I can hit that. It's just silly to me because there's plenty of room here to add another row of buttons, but they don't give us that option anymore. One of the other complaints that I have about this car, and it is just a really odd design choice. It's great that there is so much room here up in the front. Again, it's nice and flat. That's part of one of the nice things about an EV. So plenty of space when it comes to kind of where your feet are in the front. But I will say one of my complaints is with the way this is organized, there was plenty of room here to be able to add, say, cup holders or something like that are easily accessible. Putting the cup holders down here makes this actually really annoying to be able to put any kind of cups and dodge sort of this center console. You do have the wireless charging pad, which actually does have a row of air vents here, which I think is great. I wish everyone would do that. Unfortunately, a lot of auto brands with their charging pads don't offer any kind of cooling, and it basically just becomes a phone heater at that point that doesn't really even charge your phone. Overall, I really love this interior, and we'll go check out the back right now. Now, if you have a family or you regularly drive with about 3 or 4 people and you need to use the rear seat, the iX is probably one of the best cars to be able to kind of move around 4 people around any kind of a city or even short road trips. There is so much legroom in this car. BMW claims about 38 inches. The way they measure feet room is always a little bit weird, so what 38 inches in one car is not quite exactly what it is in another. Because of the design of these seats, you can actually very easily put your feet underneath them, which allows you to really extend your legs out. It's very comfortable. The cushioning on these seats are great. And then one of the other nice things is because this is an EV platform and they have a lot of flexibility with how they can kind of deal with packaging in this car. Even the middle seat here, typically you have some kind of a tunnel here in kind of an internal combustion car, especially if it's rear-wheel drive. You don't have to worry about that here. Nice flat floor. I can keep my feet all the way out here underneath these HVAC controls for the 4-zone climate control. I love that. So again, it's just a beautiful interior, plenty of room. These seats are really cool just because, again, there's the USB charging right there. Just makes it kind of convenient. And BMW does offer these accessories if you want to put some kind of like a coat hanger, iPad holder, whatever. It's just nice to have that option. I do miss the cargo nets, but these work fine. Just plenty of space. You have your ISOFIX kind of really well hidden. Mind you, remember this car kind of slots in between the sides of an X5 and an X7. I believe the wheelbase is about 195 inches, so it's slightly bigger than an X5, but not quite as big as an X7. But for a 2-row, plenty of room back here, and there's still plenty of room in the cargo space in the trunk, so we'll go take a look at that real quick. So now we're going to talk about the trunk of the BMW iX. Now again, not many changes. You're still getting 35 cubic feet of cargo space, and when you fold the seats down, which I do love, they actually have these buttons over here so you can put them down from the rear. You don't have to go and climb over to put them down. 78 cubic feet with the second row folded. Now, there's both good and bad things about kind of the cargo space back here. One thing that does annoy me a little bit is because this is slanted back here, you've got to be really careful to make sure that whatever you put in here, you line up so that it doesn't close on whatever you have in the trunk here. There's a little bit of a cutout, so there's a little bit of room, but sometimes you'll find it can basically hit the door as it's going down and then it opens back up and you've got to rearrange things. Not the end of the world, but just something to consider. But it is a box. I mean, I do love how it is just straight wall. There's no kind of slopes or anything like that. So all of this can be very easily used. One other nice thing about I found with BMW EVs is they have these very large compartments underneath the floor. So there's a ton of space down here. I've got camera equipment back here. I mean, I've got a whole bunch of stuff down here. It goes even deeper than this. So there's just a ton of storage room. So realistically, you could probably put a couple small bags underneath here and not even impact the rest of your cargo space. Really usable cargo space, really nice back seat, really nice interior. This is just a lovely car to live with on a day-to-day basis. Right now, I want to talk to you about what it's like to drive on a day-to-day basis, especially around town. Just normal city driving, running errands, going to school, going to the gym, going to the grocery store, whatever. I've now had this car for a week, and unfortunately, I've got to give it back tomorrow, and I'm sad. Despite the fact that I'm one of those people who normally loves sports cars, that Z4 manual is still probably one of my favorite BMWs I've driven in the last several years. I've actually really come to like the iX a lot more than I should. I don't have a family, I don't have a wife, I'm just a single dude. Why would I like something that's kind of known for being sort of a mom car in a way? I mean, again, that's what mid-size SUVs are kind of known for being. Not specifically for moms, but just kind of that pedestrian run-around kind of car. I've come to appreciate a very good daily, and that's exactly what this is. I feel like the iX has always been underappreciated, and I think that's because a lot of people, when they're judging a car, they look at things on a spec sheet, you know, which one has, you know, the largest battery, the most range, the fastest charging, the fastest acceleration, most power. What this car is very good at is being a comfortable luxury SUV that is just extremely convenient and nice to live with on a daily basis. So when it comes to city driving, that's where this thing is just absolutely wonderful. Right now I have it in B mode. In drive mode, you do have several different settings that you can choose for your regenerative braking. High, medium, and low. Low barely being almost feeling like light engine braking. Medium being a little bit more. And then high being fairly close to what B mode is, but then B mode being your true one pedal driving. And I typically like to be in B mode unless I'm on the highway doing, you know, like a long road trip, because it's really well calibrated. Some cars that, you know, electric cars with their regenerative braking, they tend to not be great with the way they're calibrated. So sometimes they can be a little bit jerky. Sometimes, you know, depending on how much your throttle input is or how quickly you come off, it can almost kind of give sort of a heaving motion and either stop too quickly, put on too much regenerative braking. This is actually, it's fairly well sorted out. Everything is pretty progressive. So it encourages you to want to use B mode. And not only, once you've experienced one pedal driving, you kind of almost don't want to go back. It's just very convenient, not really ever having to hit the brake pedal. And then also you're just using the most of your kinetic energy to recharge the battery. So overall, what I'm seeing is with city efficiency, it's pretty easy for me without even trying to hit between about 2.6 to like 2.9 miles per kilowatt hour in terms of efficiency when driving in the city. There's a number of changes that they've made to make it a little bit more efficient. Horatio's talked about it. I want to dive into it a little bit more because I think it's kind of cool. The first being is the headlights. These new headlights, again, it's part of the new BMW design language. They're not just a different design, they're actually more efficient. So I think people forget that headlights are very energy intensive, and if you can make them more energy efficient, you're taking less drain out of the battery, and again, you could put that towards, you know, the electric motor and driving range. The other headlight is, again, they do have some friction reduced wheel bearings, so everything is just a little bit more optimized to not get losses due to friction when it comes to some of the bearings, so that's nice. But the big change for 2026 is the 2026 model year is the new silicon-carbide inverter. And you're asking, well, what is the inverter? Again, that's helping change DC current to AC current, AC current to DC current. Some of that can depend on whether or not you're dealing with regenerative braking or whether it's pushing the electric motor to drive the wheels forward. So again, there's always technically some losses when you go from DC to AC or reverse. And when you can make that as efficient as possible, what you're doing is, again, you're going to get more range because of that, because you're basically taking the energy that's actually in the battery and putting it to the wheels on the road. Now, from the M60 compared to the M70 this year, the change isn't huge when it comes to mileage, but again, remember, there's also a lot more power. I think BMW focused on increasing the power output rather than mileage. When it comes to driving range in the city, again, right now, since I've been driving, it's showing 318 miles estimated. Again, there's 112 kilowatt hour usable battery pack for the US. I believe Europe, it's spec slightly differently. So about 112 usable kilowatt hours of battery. If you're averaging, again, about 2.8 to 3, almost about 3 miles per kilowatt hour. If you do the math, you should be getting about 330 to 360 miles of range. Now, it's important to note that the way this car is spec'd and the mileage that I'm seeing here and the efficiency, this car has the 23-inch wheels. I believe that they're called the 1028i design. This, according to the EPA, is only supposed to get about 283 miles, is what BMW states. It's with the smaller 21-inch wheels is where you're actually going to be getting closer to that 302, 303 mile figure. So this is the worst case scenario. This is basically spec'd to get the least amount of range, and I'm still seeing easily over 300 miles of range on a charge without even trying. When it comes to the comfort, this has the air suspension equipped on this car. I believe the M70, it can only come that way, and I believe it's an option on the 60 and the 45 trims to be able to kind of choose whether you want that adapted. I would get it. This has been one of the most luxurious and serene cabin experiences that I've had in any car at any price point that I've ever driven. Now again, this car is between about $120,000 to $130,000 depending on exactly how you spec it. So it is expensive, and when you're paying for something that's that expensive, you want something that is luxurious, and that's exactly what you're getting here. Horatio was able to do a sound test. I believe he was able to get like 62 to 63 decibels. I believe it. I don't have a sound meter on me, but it's been so quiet. I can very easily take phone calls in this car without having any issue hearing people on the call. It's quiet, it's comfortable on the highway, it's comfortable in city driving. And beyond just the noise level, there is not a single shake or rattle in this car. Everything is screwed together so well. The quality is fantastic. I mean, I cannot say enough things about it. And again, you've seen the interior of these iXs. They're gorgeous. It's beautiful. So, beautiful interior, very comfortable, quiet. The air suspension handles and just soaks up sort of all the big and large bumps without really much any issue, but it's still very compliant and confident with the way it handles. It's not boaty in its feel, which I love. You can drive this thing pretty quickly. If you need to get from point A to point B fairly fast, this is a really good car to do it, and you're gonna be comfortable the whole way. For 2026, I guess that they did make a couple changes when it comes to the interior, and one of those are these seats. I think Horatio was the one who kind of really like championed and bugged BMW to make those changes, but I'm glad they did. So even though I'm shorter than Horatio by, quite a bit, I'm only about 5'9", the side bolstering, it's not super aggressive, but it is just enough that it keeps you in the seat comfortably without allowing you to slide around too much, but also without being, keeping you in too tight. This sound system is the best sound system I have ever heard, bar none, in any car, period. I love blasting music on this thing, and between the subwoofer in the seat, speakers, back in the headrest, it's just, you don't just hear the music, you feel it, and it's pretty awesome. It's comfortable, yes. Is it pragmatic? Because remember, if you're going to be spending anywhere between like $100,000 to $130,000 on one of these iXs, you want it to be as versatile and usable as it can possibly be. Now, like we mentioned, this is about an inch longer in both wheelbase and overall length compared to a BMW X5's. It's not quite X7 territory, but it's a fairly big car. The rear seat room is just fantastic. I think because this is an EV in the way that it's packaged, you have a completely flat floor, which gives you tons of back seat room. Again, if you're sitting there in the middle, there's also this nice cutout right in the middle center console, basically underneath the controls for the air conditioning, where you can slide your feet almost like you're one of the side passengers. So you can actually fit 5 adults in here very easily, no problem whatsoever. I will say that one of the things that I don't like about BMW EVs, and again, this is something the iX3 and the Neue Klasse is gonna fix, there's no frunk, which I just think is odd. Now, again, part of that is, if I had to guess, I think part of that is because the heat pump that's up there, as well as all the HVAC controls. But again, other EVs have those things, and they've been able to find ways to add a frunk up there. It would just be nice to be able to throw a charging cable in there if I'm traveling and I know that I'm not going to be using my home charger, or maybe a level 2 station somewhere is not available. I can just bring that cable with me. But it's not the end of the world. It's just one of those packaging things that I'm kind of like, I wonder why they couldn't spend more time packaging that so we could get a frunk. One of the really nice things I do like about the iX is between the seating position, how small these pillars are, and how large the windows are, with how big the windshield is too. I have amazing forward visibility. Rear visibility is also pretty good. The rear C-pillar is a little bit big, but again, I've got blind spot monitoring. I'm really not too worried about that whatsoever. It is a 5,800 pound car. Yeah, you can feel the weight if you really start to push it. I have driven this car on Angeles Crest Highway. I didn't take any video because this is not really a car that you're trying to flaunt on a road like that. Just don't even try it. This is a daily driver, but the speed is nice. Now again, I'll make an argument that actually having a faster car can be safer. Now, think about it. If I'm making a turn, I need to merge. Maybe it turns out someone was driving faster than expected. Maybe they're coming around a blind curve. The ability to just quickly take a turn or merge and then get up to speed can prevent an accident. It might sound counterintuitive that you would think that, speed is unsafe, but I think the ability for this car to so quickly accelerate is actually kind of nice. BMW claims 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds. I think that's very conservative. Horatio was able to get, I think, 3.4 in an unprepped surface. I don't even think he was in launch control. Yeah, for 2026, they've just done so many little incremental updates that I've really liked. I've really enjoyed living with this car. Again, on paper, does it have the most range? No. Does it have the best charging speeds for DC fast charging? No. But I think the reality is you're very easily in any iX going to get probably, even if you're not even trying 290, if you're trying, a little bit more conservatively with how you drive, maybe you use the efficient mode in here a little bit more often, you're probably gonna very easily get 300 to 320, and that's with the 20-inch wheels. I have a feeling if I was on 21 or one of those really cool looking 22-inch wheels that I like, I would not be surprised even in M70 trim if this can get 330 or more. That's plenty of range. Now you have to remember, most people who buy an EV, they're gonna have some sort of infrastructure set up. If you're blindly buying an EV and you don't have a home charger, you can't charge at work, you don't have chargers very easily, readily accessible for you, and it's gonna be a painful ownership experience. But again, if you're buying into this car and the EV life, you're probably gonna invest in the infrastructure a little bit. If you have a home charger at all, and a 40 amp or 48 amp charger that can get you between 9 to 11 kilowatts of charging speed, this is a super easy car to live with. I want to talk about a couple things that I love about the interior, and then a couple things that I really don't like about this interior. Now, let's start with the good. Overall, fit, finish, material choice is phenomenal. It feels so nice. It feels expensive. The leather that extends all over the door, it's heated. When you actually get in a car and you turn on what you think is just gonna be your heated seat, and then it also heats your steering wheel, and then it heats up where your arms rest on the armrest and then on the door, that is so nice. You feel nice and toasty very quickly. You don't realize how much of a luxurious experience it is when you get little details right like that. That's cool. The second is this steering wheel. I think it is the best steering wheel BMW has ever put in a car. I love the design for two reasons. One, it's circular. There's no weird squircle thing, just easy to go hand over hand, turns naturally. The BMW steering wheels are always a little bit on the big side in terms of how chunky they are. I mean, these are just girthy steering wheels. This is the right way of doing it, BMW. Please put this steering wheel in more of your cars. Also, other things that I really like about this car, the ambient lighting is phenomenal. It looks so great. It lights up the footwells really well, all throughout the interior, along the doors, on the dashboard. I mean, it's a really beautiful place to be at night or when the sun's going down. I love the ambient lighting in this car. It's one of those nice little things. And then again, when you can go through the different modes, it's kind of cool to see how they'll change. Obviously, you have all the different colors you can program and change yourself. And it's kind of cool because when you can go through some of the different modes, there's one mode at the very end and it's called silent. And it literally just turns everything off. It turns off your music if you're listening to it. Basically turns your car as close to an isolation chamber as you can possibly get. So if you've had a really long day at work and you're just absolutely cooked, just press silent mode, chill out, kind of look like Mike from Breaking Bad when he was dying on the side of the river, where he's just like, yeah. My number one dislike, I find, for whatever reason, despite the fact that this is an EV skateboard architecture, you should have plenty of room with being able to, kind of maneuver where the footwell is and the firewall. I find the footwell and the firewall is actually very vertical. Again, most cars, it's fairly slanted and it can go pretty far deep. For whatever reason, the iX, it's actually a little bit shorter and it's a little bit more vertical. Not the end of the world, you can just move the seat a little bit more back, but I don't know why it's positioned that way, especially because, like I said, you already don't have a frunk. You don't have an engine up front, or at least a true internal combustion motor. So there should be plenty of room. I just feel like that was kind of a packaging misstep. Not the end of the world, but that is one minor complaint that I have. Now, the iX has always been known for being a very comfortable car, and what's interesting is I think EVs, especially EV SUVs, kind of get a bad rep for being not good cars to take on a road trip or to drive on the highway. And what we're seeing right now is this car with its efficiency, we get anywhere on the highway between 280 to like 320 miles. It's actually pretty good. Again, remember, these are on the 23-inch wheels. This is supposed to have only about 280 miles of range according to the EPA, but again, it's pretty easy to exceed that, even going at highway speeds. There's a couple things about this car that make it such a good car on the highway. Now again, we've already talked about how quiet this car is. It's just a very comfortable car to drive every day because the noise levels are so low. Despite the fact that this car is kind of shaped like a brick, it's not really too bad when it comes to wind noise. Like, again, I'm sure you can hear right now, this mic is pretty good at picking up just about everything, and it's still nice and quiet even on the highway. There is a slight amount of road noise like that I'm noticing coming from the tires. I think a lot of that again comes to the fact that these are the 23-inch wheels, so it's just kind of a shame. Hopefully I could try one of these again on either 21 or 22-inch wheels, especially because, like I said, those 22-inch wheels, I think they look the best. This car can only charge up to 195 kilowatt max charging speed. Now, I actually did a charging test on this car. So while other, again, we've already done tests with the iX in the past, but I kind of wanted to see what the refresh was like and if there were any changes. And what I noticed is it's pretty much on the money with what they say. Again, you start out, I did a test from 3% up to 80% at an Electrify America charger. What I noticed is from about 5% all the way up to about 40%, I was getting very consistent 190 to, actually I think it was like 198 kilowatt charging speeds, which is, it's good, it's acceptable, it's not terrible, but the issue with that is that after about 40% is where we really started to see a drop off in charging performance. So after about 40%, from about 40 to 50, it dropped to about, like, I would say about 160, I believe. And then from after about 50% to about 60, 65, it slowly would step down every about 5%, another 10 to 20 kilowatts. And then by the time we got up to about 70%, I was down to, I believe it was roughly like 70 to 75 kilowatt charging speed, which is not great. What's important to remember when it comes to charging is not just the top charging speed, it's the curve. And why I mention that is, again, if you want to get to 80%, which is going to give you about, 250 miles of range, it can take quite a bit longer because of that steep drop off after 40%. So that it took me 39 minutes to go from 3% to just, I believe, 80%, which is okay, it's acceptable. It's not competitive. I think that's the big problem with this car, is DC fast charging, it's not competitive. My counter to that is DC fast charging I don't think is as important as people say. If you are regularly, like almost daily, driving 300 to 500 miles a day and DC fast charging is important to you, this BMW is probably not for you. But I also, what are you doing commuting that much? The reality is that DC fast charging, it's nice to be competitive and as close to what a gas car can do as possible, but I don't think it's necessary. I think the reality is, if you ever need to get an extra 100 to 150 miles of range to get to your next level 2 charger to charge overnight, this is fine, because again, you can get to that 40% charge. I think it only took me, it was about like 15 minutes. It's gonna get better with this new generation Neue Klasse iX3 and the new 3 Series, but that's kind of my one real big complaint when it comes to the technical performance of this car. When it comes to driving tech, I do want to talk about highway assist. So this has the Driver's Assistance Professional package, which I've driven before in a number of other BMWs. Up to 85 miles an hour, you can be hands-free as long as you are keeping your eye on the road. That is a very nice feature to have, because again, right now, I'm basically just sitting here, I'm keeping my eyes on the road, I don't need to touch the steering wheel, and it's doing the driving for me. Again, it says that it's got it activated, and I'm kind of just chilling here, letting the car do its thing. It's very well calibrated when it comes to following distance. So what I notice is like if a car cuts me off or comes into my lane, or a car slows down pretty aggressively in front of me, it doesn't immediately slam on the brake and freak out. It's actually pretty good at, again, adjusting the following distance, not being too aggressive with the brake or throttle. It doesn't ping pong in the lane like older level 2 systems, level 2 plus systems used to do. So the lane centering is fantastic. It just keeps you in the center of your lane, and it can take you around some pretty steep curves too. So this isn't something that you can really only use on a straightaway, and then the moment it turns, it goes, oh, sorry, you're gonna take over. this really helps you drive pretty much the full way. Yeah, it's a good car. I don't want to give this one back. So that wraps up our video with the 2026 iX M70. It's just a really great car to live with on a day-to-day basis. And remind you, charging, when it comes to DC fast charging, it's not the end of the world. As long as you're not regularly driving 500 miles in this car every week, it's not going to be something you're really going to have to worry about. Awesome interior, very comfortable, great range, easy to live with, great to drive, and just super comfortable and practical. If you lease one of these things, you're going to be very happy with it. Or if you can find one on the used market that's been pretty heavily discounted, these are amazing cars. So I really love this thing. I'm kind of sad that I have to give back my very comfortable 811 foot-pounds of torque couch. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.